Wow.
So if you remember a couple of videos ago, I was trying to build a three-wheel rear steer top speed car with active aerodynamics. And this was an attempt to build an RC car, hopefully for someday a world record attempt. Now, I chose this particular car layout because it's extremely aerodynamically efficient. You can design something that has a very low drag coefficient in this particular shape just because of the way the air is going to go around the car. The wild card with this car was the rear steering setup, which made version 1 of this car basically uncontrollable. Rear steer is unfortunately inherently unstable to drive at high speeds, but there were a number of other issues that were plaguing version 1 that I wanted to try to give this rear steer setup another chance. So if you watched the last episode, I had already designed a version 2 of the car, and using AirShaper's cloud-based CFD service, I was able to achieve a drag coefficient of just 0.17 with version 2. And that's extremely low for something in the small RC car scale like this, where you have a lot of little parts and pieces that can add to the drag. In fact, the total drag for this car is so low that it could easily achieve 260 miles per hour on a very small drone motor. I didn't really cover the design of version 2 much in the last video, but version 2 is basically a scaled up version 1 with improved aerodynamics based on the results from AirShaper's CFD analysis. The wheels went from 65 millimeters in diameter up to 80 millimeters in diameter. This is primarily to lower the RPM that the wheels will be spinning at higher speeds, but also to give more ground clearance. And these larger wheels are just going to roll more smoothly on rough ground, which was a definite issue with version 1. The other big issue I addressed was the weight distribution of the car. So for a tadpole layout three-wheel car, based on my readings, the rear tire should have about 25 to 30% of the vehicle's weight to just be stable. Version 1 had about 18%, which I thought would be great for traction, but it caused a lot of issues when the car was going over bumps. Additionally, I thought I couldn't have too much aerodynamic stability. This is basically like where the car is shaped more like an arrow, so it's heavy on the front, and we've got a lot of surface area in the rear so that it steers into the wind. I had the center of pressure something like 180 millimeters behind the center of gravity in version 1, which is way too much for a car like this. You just basically don't have any control over the car if you have even the slightest amount of wind. And because of this, I was actually able to ditch the complex in-wheel flexure suspension that I had tried to use on version 1, and the car handles fine without it. Now, I don't remember the viewer's name, but they posted after the last video mentioning that the rear tail doesn't have a lot of vertical stability aerodynamically. And I completely agree with that assessment. There's basically no horizontal surface area on the rear tail. So if it hits a bump aerodynamically, there's nothing trying to hold that tail onto the ground. So I went ahead and added 2 horizontal stabilizers to the tail with roughly a 0-degree angle of attack. They added something like 1.5% more drag, which is very minuscule, but they do generate downforce. And the bigger benefit is when the rear does hit a bump, the angle of attack is going to go up on those horizontal stabilizers, and they're going to generate a lot more downforce, and it's going to force the tail to stay on the ground. And then lastly, the other big issue with the previous car was obviously the rear steer setup. I knew from version 1 of the car that the rear servo was underpowered, and because this car has even larger wheels, the pivot point for the rudder is even further back. So I purchased a really strong servo, and I also increased the length of the pivot arm, basically where the servo acts on the steering mechanism, to effectively increase that leverage ratio. Now the steering arm looks bad, but it actually adds very little drag after I added a little bit of streamlining, and I'm not super worried about it at this point. I'm certain the astute viewers have also noticed that the steering appears to be at an angle in version 2, and that's correct. I added a significant amount of mechanical trail in this design already because of the larger wheel, but I figured why not try a little bit of caster as well. Honestly, I don't think it does very much, but the car has about 5 degrees of caster, so hopefully that helps to stabilize the rear a little bit when steering. We'll try it. The car seems to already handle much better than version 1 at low speeds. It's much more stable when steering, and it's a lot easier to just steer around the parking lot at speeds below, I'd say 15 mile an hour. The gear ratio was very wrong, and I almost immediately melted the motor mount on the first test. I also had some issues with the drive axle itself, which plagued me throughout version 2 testing, unfortunately. And actually, since the last video, I transitioned from the plastic hubs that I had issues with in version 1 to these nice metal flange collars, and they work really well. I ground a small flat on my 5mm stainless steel axle and clamped these on, and they seem very robust, but the issue is that the stainless steel axle is harder than the actual set screw in the collar. So most likely I need to either find some mild steel or I need to find some aluminum axles at some point. So because they're really not digging in, and even with thread locker, the set screws are basically working themselves loose. Thus, in all these tests, I'll be running the car without side pods. To actually address the gearing issue, I printed out new gears to hopefully save this little poor motor from overheating, and I moved on to actually testing in a big parking lot.
It's not terrible though. It's drivable. Better. Stop's good. Ow.
So as soon as I got the car into the bigger parking lot, I could immediately tell that it handled much better than version 1. It turns better, it stops better. You can drive it around at slow speeds pretty much like a normal RC car. The steering servo is much stronger. The larger wheels and higher ground clearance means the car isn't spinning out of control every time it hits a small rock or a pebble. It was actually quite fun to drive at low speeds. It's very efficient. With an 1100 milliamp battery, I was getting 25 plus minutes of run time. But when you try to go fast, the issues with the rear steer become very evident. I would say at speeds over 20 miles per hour, small steering inputs make the car very unstable. And then when you get closer to 40 to 45 miles per hour under throttle, any steering input at all sends the car spinning out. And I really never got the car over, I'd say 45 miles per hour or so. So I went back to the drawing board. Now, I don't fully understand the dynamics of the rear steer cars. There seems to be all these different theories depending on basically the phase shift between where the center of gravity is and where the steering's happening. But I can tell you that from experience, having the steering behind the center of gravity means that if you steer too much, there's no amount of counter steer or really anything that will save the car. You just can't catch it at all. It's not like a normal car. Mechanically, there's not much that you can really do about this dynamic, unfortunately, particularly since I need a lot of the center of gravity to be so close to the front. There are possible ways to address this electronically. As I mentioned in the previous video, I really want a car that is inherently stable, that I don't really have to have all of the electronics to be able to stabilize it like I did my original Streamliner cars. But I felt like I should at least try one of the methods that I thought about for electronic stability, because this car is just so fun to drive and so weird. So the method I wanted to try was speed variable steering rate. So using the onboard ESP32 microcontroller, I'm taking in the steering request from the RC transmitter, and I have the ground speed from the GPS unit. And the faster the car is going, the more I actually decrease the maximum steering allowed. So this is different from what you might see with exponential steering in most RC car transmitters, where you just have a steering rate that essentially is very slow in the middle of the steering range, but you still actually have the full steering range. So if you turn the wheel all the way, you will still receive the full steering input. But this is different because based on the speed of the car, I actually multiply the steering request by some number less than 1 to reduce the overall steering output as the car steers faster. So in this particular case, we have full steering at low speeds, say less than 20 miles per hour. And by the time we reach 40 miles per hour, we have only 10% of the steering angle across the entire steering wheel range, which is really less than 1 degree of steering for this particular car. So back out at the parking lot for test 3, the speed variable steering is a huge improvement. It could use a little more tuning, and in fact, I think you could probably have it ramp up a little bit quicker. The car feels really stable to about 35 miles per hour under part throttle. It's way better and easier to control, but the car is still relatively difficult to drive fast and keep straight. Under hard acceleration, you have to make some steering corrections to try to keep it in a straight line because you're going to hit pebbles and again cracks and other things in the pavement. And those steering corrections tend to still result in the car spinning out.
Very small amounts of does not like bouncing.
So based on kind of how the car was handling, I developed a technique where I drive the car normally to about 30 miles per hour, and then I accelerate very slowly from 30 miles per hour up to 55 miles per hour or so. And this is where things kind of get strange. I found that at 55 plus miles per hour, the aerodynamic centering force, basically the force due to where the center of pressure is on the car, exceeds the traction from the rear tire. And at that point, basically the car can go full throttle and stay straight. It's really an airplane at that point because the rear wheel transitions from being a wheel into basically a rudder. And I think that the speed variable steering is still key to getting it up to that speed. But once you get to 55 mile an hour, you can basically just go full throttle because you've got high downforce at that point on the front, and you've got that stability from the aerodynamics. Unfortunately, since I've had to waste all this distance getting up to 55 miles per hour, I can't get that fast in this parking lot. Essentially, I can only get up to about 75 miles per hour or 120 kmph. Luckily, the car brakes far better than I was expecting. Basically, the length of 2 parking spots, or 60 to 70 feet or 20 to 25 meters, it can come to a full stop from 75 miles per hour. So that's really encouraging. I like that aspect of the handling, but it's still not going to be enough, especially if I want to try to make it up to say 180 miles per hour plus in a distance of 400 to 600 meters. That's just not going to work. I have to say this car is super endearing to drive because it's just so difficult to drive. It's very quirky. I'd say for out of every 5 speed run attempts, I get 1 successful run without spinning out. So it is not consistent in any way. I like this car so much that I'm really torn what to do next. I obviously can play with adding something like a gyro so that I can enhance the stability and basically be able to minimize the steering inputs. I know that with a gyro, I could basically tune the car to drive itself essentially up to high speeds. I could also try reworking the car so that I have 2 motors in the front and some differential steering instead of a rear steer setup. Again, it's kind of a major redesign for the car to do that. So I'm hesitant just to launch down that path. Plus I'm going to have the weight of the extra motor as well as the weight of an additional ESC in there. And I don't think that that's going to help my acceleration rate at all. And then I also look at, I could also try to go with a rear wheel drive or an all wheel drive setup with a front steering layout, basically try to reverse the car. Unfortunately, it's not that simple because I can't just reverse the car. That throws off the entire weight distribution. I need to have the mass at the front. So I'm going to have to redesign an entire new car that basically has the weight of the motor and the batteries and everything else near the front, and a belt drive basically back to the rear axle to do something like that. So that wraps it up for this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, whether or not I should keep trying with this 3-wheel concept and possibly add some additional electronics for stability, or if I just need to move on to a rear-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive concept with a front steering setup and see how that's going to perform. So again, I want to thank AirShaper for helping out with the CFD on this car, and make sure to check out their website in the link in the description below to see some of the cool stuff that they're doing with different things like drones and cars as well. They have lots of cool example projects for all those things. So until next time, stay safe out there.